Hello everyone and welcome to the NDIS Circle. I'm Dan McCutcheon and today we're welcoming a special guest, Conor Mahady, who is the CEO of WADSA, WA Disability Sport Association, an incredible organisation that provides sports and rec activities for people living with disabilities. WADSA's mission is to enhance the lives of individuals with disabilities across WA through participation in fun, engaging and inclusive activities. Not only does this benefit NDIS participants, but it also extends to their families, friends and the broader community. I'm excited to dive into Conor's journey. After a few technical issues this morning, we're up and running and explore his passion for empowering people with disabilities and the important role that WADSA plays in our community, foster inclusivity and wellbeing through sport, which is something that I'm super passionate about. I'm a sports man as well. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Conor.
No worries, Dan. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
No worries. Yeah, it's so good to have a chat, and it's good to catch up. We caught up. It's probably a month or two ago now, wasn't it? And had a bit of a chat and thought, it might be worth you jumping on the podcast and learning a little bit more about WADSA. Like I've obviously worked in the sector for quite a long time, and had heard about WADSA, but speaking to you the other week, it was really good to actually learn what you're doing over there at WADSA and how it all works. I didn't really know the specifics, so keen to dive into a bit of that today. But maybe as a starting point, could you share a little bit, Conor, about your background and sort of what led you to become CEO of WADSA?
Sure. So I've been involved with WADSA for the majority of my life in some capacity. My dad was actually involved in setting up the organisation going back 40 or so years ago. I remember being there on weekends, volunteering, helping out at athletic state champs, soccer carnivals and stuff from probably the age of 5. So I've got a long-standing volunteer kind of relationship with the organisation, and my background was in kind of classic fashion, kind of wanted to branch out from what Dad was doing, so I decided to go to university and look to become a teacher, and was really keen to still work in the ed support space, and something I've always been passionate around, working with people with disabilities in some capacity. So I went there, finished my studies, and as I was coming to the end of my studies, started working again at WADSA part-time as there was an opportunity there for a junior coordinator. So I was working in schools across the state. Basically finished my degree and thought, I love this. I get to work in multiple schools. I get to design programs to be a bit more innovative than I found within the school system, which was a bit more rigid at this time. So in that respect, I've been working with WADSA in a formal capacity for over 16 years now. I've worked in probably nearly every position within the organisation at some point. So I've been a development officer, a junior coordinator, a camp coordinator, a program manager, a general manager, and now in my current role as CEO. And so I'm quite lucky in that respect that I feel I've got a very good handle on, I guess, the frontline delivery all the way through to, I guess, my current role as a CEO being a bit more strategic and focusing on funding and stakeholder relations, etc. Again, I think I said this last time I met you, I'm very lucky that I get to come to work every day. I love working at WADSA. I love working with the team that we have there. And I truly believe that the programs and services we deliver have a massive impact in the community.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome, Conor. Yeah, so how many people work at WADSA now? What does the team sort of look like?
We're looking at around 12 FTE currently. We also have casual workers and quite a large volunteer base. But in terms of, our core staff, 12 FTE. We're quite lucky and unique in that respect that the team at WADSA, we've got some really long-standing staff, so we've got a really deep knowledge base there. I think currently the average tenure of staff is around 10 years in the organisation.
Wow.
So we're quite lucky that I think the culture at the organisation is really strong and there's that really deep, IP that we're lucky to have within the organisation.
Yeah, that's a huge sign that the culture is really strong, isn't it? When people are sticking around for that long. So all credit to you and your dad as well for setting the tone. That's awesome. Yeah. And you were describing to me the other week, so WADSA is an umbrella organisation and there's around 30 odd organisations that sort of sit under that. Can you sort of flesh that out a bit more? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So WADSA, we're a peak body. So we're the peak body for the participation of people with disabilities in WA. So as a peak, we're an association of 34 different member organisations. They cover the entirety of WA basically, and they range in size and scope. Primarily volunteer run, but they would include organisations that say sport-specific organisations, such as say Goalball WA. They might include disability-specific organisations, such as WA Deaf Rec Association, or they might include regionally specific organisations such as Goldfields Inclusive Sports. So as a peak body, we provide a range of peak services to those organisations: advocacy, legal advice, capacity building initiatives, mediation services, just a whole wraparound of services to really empower them and to create a strong disability sports sector.
Yeah, awesome. And for you personally, like, do you have a passion for sport? What sort of drives your passion to focus specifically on sport? Obviously, your dad's involvement there is sort of a natural progression, but is that something you see specifically that maybe people with disabilities face particular barriers in sport and those sort of rec activities that might carry more risk or might require some out of the box thinking?
Yeah, well, I truly believe in the power of sport. I believe that I've seen firsthand the immense value that supporting people with disabilities in sport provides. It's often, for me, almost a catalyst or a bit of a gateway to kind of showing what people with disabilities can do rather than what they can't do. And myself, I grew up playing soccer. I run every day. I go to the gym. I truly believe being active has so many benefits, both physically and mentally. And I want to give other people the opportunity to experience those benefits as well.
Yeah, that's the same. Couldn't speak highly enough of moving your body. So good for your mind as well. I think that is underappreciated, isn't it? Okay. And what's sort of like the overall mission of WADSA? It's just to promote inclusion of people with disability in sport, provide more opportunities, provide a sort of funding avenue for those organisations that sort of sit under.
The primary vision for us is just to empower people with disabilities in sport and rec. And that kind of flows through to our mission, which is through participation in sport and rec, we can enhance the lives of people with disabilities in WA. And this includes family members, staff, volunteers, support workers in the community. Whether that's through providing direct services ourselves, whether that's through supporting our members to provide services across the state, or whether it's through building the capacity of, we'll call them mainstream sport organisations across the state, so then they can provide more opportunities. So we're really big on not saying WADSA has to do everything. If we can go out and if we can build the confidence, the skills and the capacity of other providers and make them deliver on a mission, that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, okay, great. And what are some of the different sport opportunities or rec activities that offered and provided through the WADSA umbrella? I think I saw we were talking about some adaptive mountain bike riding, I think, last time we caught up. What are some of those sort of more unique opportunities?
Well, yeah, our members do fantastic work. So 34 member clubs comprising of around 3,000 members. And
yeah.
Some of the more unique ones you touched on, that's by a member club called Break the Boundary. So they do adaptive mountain biking and adaptive hiking, really pushing the boundary, hence the name. But when you go out and see the stuff they do, it's so impressive. For me, I'd be terrified, but fair play to them. We have other members, such as Western Electric Sporting Association. So they deliver activities such as power chair football and power chair soccer. In power chair hockey, sorry. So you see these individuals as well in power chairs and the technical skills they have. Again, it's really emphasising what these individuals can do rather than what they can't. And it really empowers them, which flows through to other aspects of their life where they have this ability to be a champion in a sport that is so difficult. But when you go and see them, it's so impressive.
Yeah, and it's that power of sport, isn't it? Like, especially in team sports as well, there's like connection there, isn't there, to other people, feeling, a sense of purpose as part of a team and achieving something. I know I always felt that when I played sport as well, and win or lose, you're sort of in it together, and it was such a good feeling. So yeah, that's awesome. I would definitely be scared of the mountain bike riding. I'll steer clear of that one. Maybe the hockey and the soccer would be more suited to me. But and how does sort of the funding situation works? I always got to talk about that these days. I think when we caught up, it was a combination of sort of like that old school sort of block funding that I experienced working in the disability sector pre the rollout of the NDIS, and now it's sort of moved to a more individualized funding model. And I think you were that's sort of the way the wind's blowing for you, perhaps, but there's a little bit of a combination. Yeah, what's that sort of looking like? How does that all work?
Well, for us, we've been quite strategic over the years to have a diverse range of funding streams and not putting all our eggs in one basket. We were block funded, but as you touched on, we transitioned out of that probably going on 10 years now with the advent of originally obviously Wanders, NDIS, My Way, all those different programs as they rolled out across the state. And so we moved from a block funding model to an individualised model for part of our funding, and that was quite a big shift, obviously, in delivery and how you operationalise your services. Outside of NDIS funding, which is a portion of what we do, in terms of our overall participation numbers, that's probably less than 200 people out of several thousand we service through other avenues. They include working with a range of government departments, so we get support from the Department of Sport and Rec, and they fund us to deliver capacity building initiatives, to support our members and to deliver some direct services where there's gaps, such as for high support needs or moderate needs. We work with other, philanthropic groups such as Telethon. Telethon have been a fantastic supporter of ours over the years. So they fund us to deliver a range of innovative in-school programs, which for me is one of my, once again, coming from that education background, I'm really passionate about getting in early and showing these kids what they can do and hopefully setting them up for success later on in life. We also work with other agencies such as Lottery West. They often fund us when we go out and do needs analysis. We find gaps in the community, whether or not it's, once again, high support needs or a holiday program or a psychosocial disability program. They might support us in those avenues. So in that respect, whilst there's always challenges with funding, we've been quite lucky, I think. I think the key challenge really is around just creating more sustainability for not-for-profits of our size. It's often year on year on year, and it can be quite difficult to be strategic and really deliver some lasting impact when you're jumping from funding to funding, as you can imagine.
Yeah, totally. I was going to ask about that. Obviously, sustainability is pretty top of mind for most organisations at the moment, and I think particularly for not-for-profits that maybe have come from that block funding sort of model and trying to sort of adapt to the way the sector has changed. It can be difficult. It's more difficult to undo things than to start fresh, isn't it? How do you manage that? I mean, so are you writing tenders each, 18 months or 3 years for particular funding from different streams and sort of just assessing at the start of the year where your contracts are at and just doing having a bit of a strategy meeting and having that overall viewpoint and then deciding where to go from there? How do you approach that as sort of like the CEO?
For us, we basically have we call it a funding plan where we've identified, a range of key stakeholders, whether or not they're government departments, whether or not they're philanthropic groups, whether or not they're foundations. Yeah. And we roll through and we look at, what their key objectives are and make sure they align with our strategic vision. We don't want to be just going for funding for the sake of going for funding. It's got to align to what we want to do, where we want to be. But in that respect, there does seem to be a shift towards more long-term funding, getting away from 1 year, which is something that I think both funders and fundees agree is going to have a better impact. I think importantly as well, we do have good relationships with a lot of our key funding bodies. So we like to keep them informed. We like to keep them involved, whether that not be at a ministerial level, at an executive level, or at a management level. So we're very transparent, and I think that all the agencies we work with see the immense value we provide and the value for money we provide, which I think is quite important in the space.
Yeah, and what's your sort of long-term vision for WADSA? Are you trying to grow the organisation, or are you just trying to sort of shore up that sustainability, like make the organisation more efficient and sort of consolidate those funding streams? What's your sort of vision for the next sort of couple of years?
I guess we need to ensure that we have a sustainable funding base, but my long-term vision is for us to be a leader in providing innovative, inclusive and impactful sport and rec for people with disabilities. Ideally, the vision is driven by, it's a goal of ensuring that every person with disability has access to tailored, engaging and empowering experiences, and they get to, feel that physical, emotional, social and well-being that the rest of us get to. It's a long-term vision, but I have seen a shift in the last 10 years where more and more providers are starting to see the value in working with people with disabilities in their sport and rec programs. In an ideal world, for me, a disability program would just be business as usual. It doesn't have to be a song and a dance to do a whole different disability program. It should be no different to a juniors program, no different to a master's program, where someone with disability can come along to a sport and rec club of their choice, feel welcomed, have knowledgeable, skilled and confident staff delivering service to them, just as you would for someone without a disability.
Yeah, and you touched on, I think that's a great vision, by the way. You touched on earlier that sort of higher support needs, complex support needs space, where I see that's probably a cohort of people that face the most barriers to participating in sport. Like, I'm thinking of a young man we support with cerebral palsy that has multiple seizures every day, and just seeing the barriers he faces to even engaging in, attending school regularly, or holding down a job, or participating in sport and rec can be really challenging. Yeah, have you seen that in people with more complex higher support needs facing those additional barriers to participating? And have you seen sort of like any gold standard examples of how we can support that cohort of people to engage and participate a bit more?
Yeah, it's always been the focus of WADSA is trying to and engaging those with high support needs. Obviously, there's a range of additional barriers that they experience, and the participation rates are shockingly bad. And so it's something that I'm quite passionate about myself, but it's not an easy fix. I think it's one of those things where, due to the complexity of the individual disabilities and the barriers they face, there needs to be additional resources provided, whether that not be financial, time, knowledge. Those things underpin that good quality service. And it's one of the things that we try and focus on in most of our programs, is trying to get funding for those with high support needs. So say with our telethon programs at the moment, for example, one of the programs we're delivering is called Adaptions for All. This is the program targeting young children in schools with severe and complex needs. Basically, it's around, we've designed and developed a range of modified activities and adaptive equipment. So switch adaptive equipment, could be with a chin switch, could be with an eye switch, could be a toggle, but basically a range of sport-based activities that can be independently played, enjoyed, participated in by children through a range of modifications and adaptions. Without those modifications and adaptions, these individuals, due to the physical barriers they experience, don't actually get to participate in sport like each day. So for them to independently be able to engage these games, the smiles on their faces, the experiences they get to have, it can be life-changing for them. And that's something that I think people forget sometimes. We take the ability to go for a run for granted, as opposed to someone who will have a limited chance to do activities independently in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone with higher support needs wants to come down and participate with the organisation that sort of fit under your umbrella, can they come with their own support worker? And obviously there's some support provided, but if they needed that additional support, they'll be able to bring their own support worker funded through the NDIS plan.
Yeah, so basically how that would usually look is that they would have someone come along in support capacity to do the personal care. And then the member clubs or our staff are the ones who deliver that sport and rec support. So It's really a partnership, because often the support worker will know their personal needs more than we will. However, we'll be the experts in the modifying and adapting of the activity to ensure that person can participate. And it's really that partnership kind of model, which is really important, I think.
Yeah, I'm assuming the member organisations at the activity, it's probably a group, one or a couple of supports to a group of people that are participating. So if someone needs that one-on-one support, perhaps they could bring their own support worker. Yeah, that's awesome. And if there's families listening or a provider listening that supports someone they think has a passion for sport and rec and wants to get involved, like they just jump on the website, and then is there a list of sort of the member organisations? Where can they go to sort of explore this a little bit more?
Yeah, jump on the website. We have an activity directory. We're actually in the process of just finalising some grant funding to redo our website, and a big part of that is around redoing our activity directory, where we want to make it more user-friendly. We want to go out to the community again, visit over 160 providers to do basically an inclusion audit to make sure that the services we're recommending are delivering high quality services. So we're in the final stages of securing that. I'm hopefully not going to jinx myself now by saying that. But the idea being that if anyone is interested in sport and rec, jump on the phone, flick us an email. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support you. We regularly get, families giving us a call saying, I've got a son, 10 years old, who might have intellectual disability. I live in the Armidale area. What is there available? We're there to do that legwork for you to find some options. That's what we're here for.
Awesome. Oh, thanks so much, Conor. It's great to chat with you, and I've learned a lot about what WADSA does, and I think the information is really valuable for families and potentially people might be listening, or providers listening, that support someone with higher support needs and thought that this sort of thing might be out of reach, but good to know that they can get in touch with you, and you can do a bit of lead work, and there are opportunities out there. It just might take a little bit more planning. So thanks so much for jumping on, Conor, and really appreciate the conversation today.
No worries, Dan. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye. Bye for now.